I think a default would be a positive, at least a near-term positive for Bitcoin, right? It would be just like when the banks began to fail and we saw Bitcoin really rocket to the upside. My issue with Bitcoin is that even when we had issues with some of the regionals where they were dropping 50% like 2 weeks ago, Bitcoin actually came down. And to me, that tells me Bitcoin doesn't know what it is yet. Is it a digital gold? Is it a risk asset? And so I'm in the camp that I think Bitcoin topped out at 30,500 recently, and I actually think we are going to head lower. I'm still in the camp that we're probably not making, we haven't made the bottom in Bitcoin.
Gareth Soloway, a prominent figure in the world of finance and investing. As the founder and CEO of a successful financial firm, Soloway has demonstrated a unique talent for deciphering market trends and accurately predicting future movements. Gareth will kickstart the session by sharing profitable crypto setups that are currently ripe in the market. According to Gareth Soloway, he closely monitors Bitcoin price movements and analyses charts to discover patterns and trends. Bitcoin has been battling to break over the psychological level of $30,500. This level is a crucial technical and psychological barrier for Bitcoin, and its inability to break past it has resulted in significant pullbacks. Bitcoin's Ichimoku cloud suggests deeper drop toward $24,000. Technical analysis. The early March Bitcoin pullback ran out of steam at the lower end of the cloud, with the subsequent bounce taking prices to $31,000 by mid-April. A price close within the cloud is suggestive of losing cloud support and triggers the possibility of traversing to the opposite lower edge of the cloud. In this case, an edge-to-edge trade would bring prices to around $24,000, analysts added. However, market sentiment appears to be positive, with the stock market and Nasdaq on the rise in strong tech earnings. As a result, Bitcoin is also increasing in value. By the end of the year, I think it will at least hit $12,000, $13,000. The basics of this are that number one, we have to still wait for regulation, so especially with the uncertainty. Ultimately, we have to remember that you're at a point where regulation is still keeping big money out and that people are still subject to absolute fear. Gareth Soloway stands out in the Bitcoin discourse. Moreover, his prediction of Bitcoin nosediving to a chilling $10,000 has sent ripples across the market. Underpinned by historical patterns and market trends, Soloway's forecast may seem grim but is not without merit. In the interconnected crypto ecosystem, Bitcoin serves as a linchpin. Therefore, a substantial dip in its value could trigger a domino effect across other cryptocurrencies. Before proceeding further in this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button below for more recent updates about crypto market.
So 2023, maybe into 2024, the 9,001, but I do think by year end, it's very possible we could see 12 to 13, or at least double bottom at 15.7.
What would take Bitcoin then?
That's going to be risk. It's going to be risk adjustment, meaning that de-risking in the system. Bitcoin is going through this crazy period where people are just gambling on these coins. And I've said this before, but I've never seen
other coins.
Yeah, on the other coins, but it's all the psychology of it, right? It's when people feel like they can gamble and they can just sell it to someone else higher and they know deep down there's no utility. That is not a sign of a bottom in a market like a Bitcoin bull market. It's the sign of a top. And so now if you expand that out and say, okay, Bitcoin is still a risk asset, well, what if the stock market does start to tumble? Where does Bitcoin go? And that's my thesis, is that we will hit a recession. The market doesn't think that the Fed won't come to the rescue. The market and investors are conditioned for now 10, 15 years. Every time there's a hiccup, the Fed prints money. I don't think they do it this time. And that is going to be a shock. It's going to revalue the stock market 20, 30% lower from here, and that will take Bitcoin back down. The Fed intends, like in their mind, they're like, we have to be hard about this. We can't let it get away from us. And I think they'll try to hold out. But just like always, eventually the Fed will print. But we're talking about them holding out to such a level where the market doesn't expect this. Because again, look at 2018. We had the Fed begin to raise rates. The market dropped 20% in like 6 weeks, and the Fed started instantly to reverse. Our way down, there's a huge level around 23 to 24,000. If that breaks, you're headed to the 15,700 level, which is your double bottom. And then if that breaks, your next stopping point would be 12 to 13. So I'm very much a trader in that I look at the levels on the charts. And if one level breaks, if support breaks, the likely target is your next support line. And to me, 9 is a very intriguing number because the 10,000 will be max pain. And the markets, there's something about the markets and the psychology of the markets that it makes it so that the market wants to flush the most people out possible. And to me, where would that be? If you ever saw Bitcoin break 10, people would finally panic and throw up. Everyone says, oh, I'd buy $1 million, Bitcoin or whatever. That's nonsense. panic would set in, and that's usually where bottoms are made. You look historically, and this is what I do, right? It's looking historically at charts. When we topped out in 2021, Bitcoin topped out in November, right? 6 weeks later, the S&P and the NASDAQ topped out. If you go back to 2017, we topped out in December in Bitcoin, and about 4 to 6 weeks later, we topped out on the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. And so what you're looking at here is, in my opinion, the NASDAQ and S&P are rallying, but you're seeing that greed come in where I think in just the last week, NVIDIA is up like 10, 15%, right? It's getting close to all-time highs. That to me is the final push up. And ultimately, we're now at 4 weeks since Bitcoin topped. And so the idea is within 4 to 6 weeks, the S&P and NASDAQ should top, and now you're going to look for a flush.
Some analysts say that FedNo's system is not a digital currency. FedNo could outcompete almost every crypto project in existence. Put simply, FedNo almost completely obviates the need for a U.S. central bank digital currency. Amidst the chatter surrounding CBDCs and their potential impact on the market, Gareth will explore how governments plan to introduce CBDCs subtly into our daily lives, shedding light on the implications and opportunities that may arise for investors. Bitcoin proves itself as digital gold despite adverse news. Federal Reserve to raise interest rates. JP Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon issues dire warning for Bitcoin investors. Manulife Investment Management launches 2 smart global ETFs, giving investors additional income solutions. Despite the risk with market equities, the Bitcoin market has attracted significant attention from institutional and retail investors. A year into the Bitcoin halving, which typically triggers the crypto market, both short and long-term crypto holders have been observed stashing more coins.
I think that the CBDC is coming. In fact, I think the Fed is purposely, and the government's purposely withholding regulation so that the CBDC can get its foothold before institutions come in to the crypto markets, right? So we know that right now, there's so many institutions that probably want to get into crypto, but there's no regulation. They don't know what the rules are, and they're not going to put hard-earned investor money at risk until they have a firm framework. The government knows that, and the government, just like China did, and this is key, and weirdly enough, we're following the China playbook. China banned Bitcoin, launched its CBDC, the digital yuan, and then is now allowing Bitcoin back in, right? Instead of banning it here, they're just not giving anyone regulation or guidance, making it so hard for companies to operate and so hard for bigger players to get involved until they launch that CBDC. Once that, I would almost bet on it that once that CBDC is launched and has a foothold, all of a sudden magically we'll get the regulation out there. But look up like FedNow. FedNow is something that's being launched. To me, that looks it looks a lot like a CBDC, instant payments, and I think that's the bottom line. Is you're right. The Fed is going to try to backdoor this, and no political party will want to touch it. But I personally would also like to see a little bit more regulation, and just so I know what I'm investing in, what the rules are. But I think that absolutely some of these other coins, Polygon, for instance, Polkadot, Solana, I think the technology is very interesting and what's being built on them. But right now, personally, I dabble in Bitcoin and Ethereum. That's all I'm willing to, because again, it's about quantifying risk. As an investor, as a trader, I have to be able to quantify risk. And I don't, with the government being shady on this, I just can't do that. I prefer to leave Bitcoin as the digital gold. Like I would say that if we want it to survive and thrive, it needs to keep that. There's plenty of other coins that have utility, and we can see that. But for me, it's like, keep it as it is. It's pure right now. Once you start getting in, meddling in it, I think that's a negative. I do want a spot ETF. I think that it opens the door to so many investors that are scared to have crypto accounts because they might get hacked or they might lose their Bitcoin. And I think that this would be a huge way for more individuals and even older people that maybe are too kind of iffy on it to put a little bit in their 401k and just tuck it away versus the way it is right now. So I think anything that draws in more people, yes, you'll draw on, once you get an ETF, the spot ETF, it probably needs to have regulation too. So that means that you're going to have institutional money too. So there is problems with manipulation, but I think anytime you bring more people into a space, it probably hopefully helps.
Despite his near-term bearish stance, Soloway remains a long-term Bitcoin bull. Finbull asked Bard to predict the possible price outcome for Bitcoin by the end of 2023, according to Bard. Based on these factors, some experts believe Bitcoin could reach $50,000 by 2023. However, others believe it could fall back to $20,000 or even lower. Ultimately, the price of Bitcoin is unpredictable and will depend on several factors. Amid Bitcoin's seeming stability, there's an undercurrent of anxiety. Has it hit rock bottom, or could it nosedive further? Do you agree with Gareth Soloway's perspective about Bitcoin performance? Will it cross $30,000 benchmark or it'll see another bear market rally? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you found this information helpful, then like this video and subscribe to our channel. We will bring you more updates in the future.